One of the most important questions in any randomizer is, what do I need for go mode? Every randomizer has a unique set of requirements for that go mode. Sometimes the same randomizer can even have different requirements across different settings. That being said, let's talk about Donkey Kong 64 Randomizer's beginner settings and discuss what it takes to be in go mode. To do this though, we need to talk about what are the beginner settings. Donkey Kong 64 Randomizer, a beautiful revitalization to a game that is near and dear to my heart. With the release of the 3.0 generator, beginner mode settings have been added as a setting option. There are a couple major differences when we compare these settings to that of the Season 2 settings, so let's go ahead and break that down. The first major difference between standard Season 2 settings and the beginner settings is that the hard golden banana checks have been turned off. This makes it to where beginners are not going to have to deal with very difficult mini games being required to access items within the seed, such as minecarts and beaver bother. The second major change is that colored banana requirements have been changed. They have been changed from requiring 40 colored bananas per Kong to requiring 30 colored bananas. This makes acquiring the banana medal rewards easier and therefore in logic much earlier. This does mean that Kongs can acquire their banana medals in levels without moves, where in standard that they would not be able to. In the description, I will link a way to check the colored banana requirements per level and per Kong, and it'll tell you what is required to be able to get those. The third change is that Hideout Helm and K-Rool fights only require 2 Kongs each. There will be a set of 2 Kongs required for Hideout Helm and only 2 Kongs for K-Rool fight as well. You will get hints telling you which Kongs are required for each, but they won't necessarily be the same. This can differ from seed to seed, so make sure to check this. Speaking of hints, these settings use the item hinting hint system. What this means is that at a certain golden banana progress points, you will be given hints in your start menu, and then press the Z button. These hints will directly hint items, Kongs, keys, or anything else required to beat the seed. Note though, that not all hinted things will be required, but all required things will be hinted, assuming that there are enough hints to cover that scenario. This means that while there's 35 hints, only 15 of them may be required to beat the seed. The fifth and final section here is going to cover quite a bit, but I felt like these weren't important enough to each have their own section. The differences here are that you start with camera and shockwave, meaning that the banana fairy will have no items, meaning banana fairies are a junk item. While the banana fairy on the island will still have a item, I believe this is going to pretty much always either be a junk item or a golden banana. While technically you could go ahead and get that golden banana, it's not worth the time. Next, level order randomizer. The levels will be shuffled in terms of which level is which. This means that walking into level 1, where Japes would usually be, could lead you to Castle or any of the levels besides Helm. Medium shop prices. This means moves in the shops will cost anywhere between 1 and 8 coins per Kong, averaging at 4.5 coins. Randomizer. Enemies that you encounter will be shuffled. This means that non-Kasplat enemies can become Kremlin cops, or many other enemies within the game. There's logic behind this around things like flying enemies versus non-flying enemies, as far as I can tell, but we're not going to get into that here. Finally, progressive switch strengths. Levels 1 through 4 will all require the base slam. 5 and 6 will require 1 slam upgrade or super simian slam, and level 7 requires both of the slam upgrades, known as super duper simian slam. Now that we have discussed the settings, let's discuss what is required. As I said before, both Hideout Helm and K-Rool fight will have Kongs hinted for their completion. Due to these potentially being different every seed will have different required items. Let's break down what is needed at minimum. Getting into Hideout Helm has a bunch of requirements on its own. The first requirement is that you have Tiny and Monkey Port. Tiny must be able to use Monkey Port on the back of Krem Isle to be able to get to the top of the island and even enter the lobby to Hideout Helm. The second thing you'll need is Chunky and Gorilla Gone. Chunky needs to be able to use vine swinging, but to be able to get on these vines, you need Gorilla Gone. Obviously, third, you need vine swinging, as I just mentioned, to be able to vine swing across the lava. Finally, there is a bee locker blocking your way into Hideout Helm, and he's going to require that you have 50 golden bananas. Now that we've finally made it into Hideout Helm, you might see a timer going. That means you're on the clock. From here, each Kong is going to have their own set of requirements. The easiest way to describe this is that each Kong is going to require their instrument. This instrument is used to get into the area with the minigame barrels. The only other requirement that you could run into is that Diddy Kong is going to require rocket barrel boost to be able to fly up and actually get to the guitar pad. There are other requirements that could be possible, but this is going to differ from seed to seed. While this list is fairly minimal, there are some things that you might need in certain situations to beat some minigames. Some minigames require other items such as orange throwing, diving, and a couple other things. Of note, climbing up at the end, there is a room that you can see the K-Rool fight order in case you need that information. Sometimes your fight order is on the 55 golden banana hint, and you just don't have that. Once you climb all the way up Hideout Helm, you can grab key 8 and you are on your way to the K-Rool fight. You've got your key 8, you're ready to go fight K-Rool. What do you do now? Well, you can exit to Isles, come out of the DK Isle training grounds, hit that 3 banana pad warp, and then we're going to jump in and start our fight. The first Kong that we have up is Donkey Kong. He actually requires nothing for his K-Rool fight, as you're basically going to wait out the slams that come from K-Rool, jump in a barrel, wait for the timing, and launch yourself at K-Rool when he's not punching. Diddy has 2 items for his requirements though, rocket barrel boost and peanut pop guns. Diddy is going to basically fly up into the air and shoot the lights in the ceiling, hitting all the targets and make them fall on K-Rool's head. Lanky is an interesting fight in that he requires barrel throwing and trombone. Basically, Lanky's part of the fight is going to be punching some buttons, grabbing a barrel, throw that barrel, which will break to leave a banana on the ground, and then he's going to use trombone to be able to make K-Rool run towards him, slip and slide on that banana 3 times, and then the Lanky fight is over. Tiny is one of the hardest fights of these 5. Tiny requires Mini Monkey and Feather Bow. Tiny's basically going to dodge some of the slams similar to DK, but then launch into Mini Monkey, climb into K-Rool's boot, and then there will be a proceeding of shooting feathers at K-Rool's toes. This does require some good dodging skills, but there is a order to this. Every single time you do the K-Rool fight, all of the toes will move the same way. Finally, Chunky has a roster of items that he will need. He needs a slam upgrade in Super Simian Slam. He needs Gorilla Gone, Hunky Chunky, and Primate Punch. The way Chunky's fight is basically going to work is first he's going to make a button appear. This button you will hit, then spawns Gorilla Gone. Then you can jump into the Hunky Chunky barrel. Then K-Rool is going to start running towards you, and you are just going to punch him in the face 3 times. The 3rd time K-Rool will go invisible, so you have to be careful with your timing. But if your timing is good, you can punch K-Rool, and that will be the end of that. You've defeated K-Rool. Now you should be a master of knowing when you are in go mode when it comes to playing DK64 Randomizers beginner settings. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what randomizer you would like to see a go mode guide for next.